The views discussed in this conversation are the views of individuals and not of Arrington Capital. This podcast is provided solely for informational purposes and is not financial, legal, tax, or investment advice. The participants of this podcast are not recommending any particular security, protocol, token, financial instrument, or other tradable asset or any investment strategy. It is not offering to sell or soliciting to buy any security or asset.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Pirate Pod from Arrington Capital. Our team here first met Shogun earlier this year. It was clear they were attacking a market with very careful precision. Shogun's delivering an intent-centric swapping protocol at a price that we think is superior to some of the existing pool-based AMMs, especially given the execution quality, some of the gas savings, the UX, and a number of other areas that we're going to dive into today with the team. We think that Shogun has a serious competitive edge and is quickly going to replace some of the existing protocols that are out there. We're going to get into the weeds and unpack this further on in the podcast, but we like to start off all of ours with doing a quick intro on our guests and talking about their journey into crypto and their path into Web3. So Raul and Brandon, welcome today to the Pirate Pod. Thank you for joining us. Raul, why don't I start with you? Can you give us a little bit on your background and how you got into crypto?
Sure. So prior to crypto, I was a strategy consultant. I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers as well as Blue Cross, doing corporate strategy. And during the pandemic, I was getting my master's in finance and economics. I had an old friend that was also the head of a family office, who's been recruiting me for a while at that point. And he told me to look into Bitcoin. And then I just kind of got into the rabbit hole of DeFi and Bitcoin and austere economics and all that. So then I started to work for this person, and then from there went on to work at different crypto hedge funds like Hartman Capital and Republic Crypto. And then after my stints with Republic and Hartman, I started Shogun. And actually, in between, I also worked with Brandon at a cross-chain lending protocol called Umi, which is where it was first Snap, and we've been doing Shogun since.
Awesome. And Brandon, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my background is primarily in technology. So before crypto, I was at Amazon working in fintech applications, and then before that at a host of fintech companies like TD Ameritrade. So I have a lot of experience building sort of these trading platforms in sort of the Web2 context, and then came over to Web3 back in 2021 officially. I was in it undoxed for quite a while before that, but yes, joined Umi, which is in the Cosmos market, so please be gentle on us. We don't always make the best choices, but we've been making better ones ever since we left Cosmos, of course. And yeah, ever since I met Raul, we've been working on this together. I think a lot of it came from basically us being sort of your average traders, kind of just trading shitcoins, trading all L1, stuff like that. And we just found a lot of difficulty in even our process, and we were thinking look, we work in the space. If it's difficult for us to figure out this new stuff, maybe we can team up together and build a trading platform that he and I would actually want to use. And so that's the whole goal of Shogun, is just to build a trading platform that traders find easy and actually like to use.
There's a lot of trading platforms out there, so we're going to get into what makes yours quite different. Before we do, you just raised around the mean number of 6.9 million at a 69 valuation. Can you give us a little bit of what it was like to just give us 45 seconds, quick brief on what it was like to raise money in this market and any advice you'd have to people that are looking to raise capital, right?
What really helped us was getting into the Finance Labs incubation program, and then actually passing, if you know, and passing, and getting the pre-seed investment. That certainly helped, as well as just relationships with other ecosystems. So Cosmos, Parachain, Arbitrum, and some of these places we had already locked in grants. And then, of course, we've been told that our pitch was one of the best from multiple VCs, and I think Brandon can get into that because really he's responsible for that stellar pitch. He really came in and revamped our whole pitch for the better.
Was that Brandon during the incubator program, or did you kind of work on I'm curious to just sort of understand what you got out of that.
Yeah, so quite frankly, we had actually linked up during the incubator program, and going off of what Rahul had mentioned, we had a really good product in the beginning. All the feedback, especially during the bear, was this is a really good innovative product. This is a really strong team. but like what's your go-to-market going to be? Everyone was questioning our ability to sort of market and sort of, get to the users themselves. And so we just had to revamp it, part of it is adding a lot of the secret recipe to crypto, which is a little bit of mental illness. And then the rest is a lot of sort of this like degen marketing that we're focused on. And then also, of course, big partners. I mean, I'm in a bear mask, aren't I? Smokey's has been rubbing off on us. I'm actually in Smokey's shirt right now. So Smokey, if you're watching this, haven't watched it since Dubai. Yeah, a lot of stuff like that is what goes into this.
Awesome. Love the outfit. I'm still waiting for my t-shirt, so Brandon will just...
You can have this one next.
Love it. All right, so let's sort of context set on the market and why Shogun. So when you look around at all those tools you're saying that wouldn't work and didn't work and things that were coming down the pipe didn't look as promising as they could be, like what made you think that traders needed something new, needed something different? Why wasn't the existing stuff working?
You need to have an easy UX. Well, okay, so a lot of these traders, they live in places like Discord and Telegram, Twitter, right? They're not really going around reading what the tech is, and I think the easier you make it for them, the more they'll use. And one sleeper category is Telegram bots. So like when Unibot first came out last year, it was a cash cow, and now Banana Gun is also another hot Telegram bot. But essentially, like a lot of these traders, they live in these Telegram chats. They share alpha, and if you have a UX where it's adjacent to like Telegram or within Telegram, I think that can capture a large part of the market. And so that's what we're starting out with is a Telegram bot. It's also cross-chain, which is different from the existing Telegram bots in the market today. So yeah, I think maybe Brandon, you can jump in there.
Yeah, I think the big difference between what we're trying to build and what everyone else is trying to build is like if you can use sort of like the internet as a basis for like an example on this. The internet is really just, I mean, a lot of people, I saw a meme the other day where this founder was getting roasted in AI because they didn't realize that the internet's actually like a series of actually interconnected networks through like these big cables that are running under the ocean and stuff like that. And so that's what the internet is, but it feels really cohesive because you have things like, these routers that are routing traffic between them. You have things like DNS, you have things like internet service providers who are the sort of first go-to that sort of abstract all of the internet away from you. And so if you're looking at Shogun, I think the business model or sort of like what we're trying to achieve here is like to be the first interchain service provider where you can come to us, you can have access to the entire interchain, not necessarily like the Cosmos terminology of it, but the interchain is meaning every single chain that's out there right now, all of the rails, all of that supported through Shogun. And you can just use crypto. You don't have to, have a particular wallet. You don't have to know the routes. You don't have to sort of, have all this manual process that crypto has that no one else has really. And so really this is just the next step towards making crypto as cheap, as consumer friendly as possible, and just gaining the masses in terms of like being able to onboard people who maybe aren't crypto native in the sense that they trade on chain, but maybe they're on maybe they were on FTX, or maybe they were on Binance or Coinbase or wherever they may be. Getting those folks to come on chain is the first step, and then expanding to a wider base.
The experience on chain right now is very poor, especially in monetary systems like Cosmos. It's a very clunky bridging experience, as well as like having to figure out the right gas tokens and a whole host of other infrastructure stuff that a normal user can't figure out. And so what we want to do is abstract all that away and make it more accessible.
What's more important to you, the abstraction or the UX UI? I feel like everybody in crypto has been talking about the UX UI importance and significance of cleaning those things up for probably the past 2 years, right? How do you prioritize that with the underlying product that has to happen and the technicalities that have to happen?
Well, I think the abstraction kind of is the end goal of the UX. Like they kind of go hand in hand. What I mean by that is, so a lot of people use this term chain abstraction, which I kind of railed against in our blog post, but really like it's about being this interchain service where like if you take the concept of the interchain, try to trade something on a move VM based chain right now for something on Solana. It'll take you at least an hour to figure it out. Like, and you could do this while we were doing the podcast, and the podcast would end before you were able to do it. Like, stuff like that. That's why we're working with folks like, Rushi from Movement Labs' M2 rollup. Like stuff like that is going to be sort of the next phase. Like you have people that want to trade on these ecosystems. It's hard to get to them. They have to use a bridge. They have to know the exact routes. And so all Shogun is basically doing is we're connecting all of the aggregation services that already exist. So we're kind of like an aggregator of aggregators for the V1 and making it so that you can trade between any token on any chain and any other token on any chain. Now, the next step for that is towards like this whole concept of chain abstraction, where you get rid of wallets, you get rid of everything else. But we're taking a very phased approach to rollout just because the UX that we're going to get to at the end is going to look night and day from what exists today. And so we want to grow with our audience. We want to build those users, get the testing done now, because there is, a lot of enhancements that can be done with existing solutions today, linking things like dBridge with aggregation services like, to say, Li-Fi or 0x, and then going from there and adding in like Cosmos-based things to that, so you can trade Cosmos tokens with Solana. Like those type of things are like easy enhancements we can do today. And that's like the low-hanging fruit we're tackling first. And then we're getting more and more into the intent-based frameworks as we go forward.
Let's shift to talking about some of the intent-based stuff. What are intents, and what does it mean for you to have an intent-centric design in V2 or whatever your follow-on is?
Yeah, so an intent at its core, I mean, intents are just RFQs, right? Like as they are in their current state. But what they really are is a partial transaction, or like almost like partial state, where you're saying, okay, I want this end state, and however I get there is up to you guys. So you're defining the end state, you're not defining the means to get to that end state. And so when you do with something like that, you have things like aggregation that are possible, but you also have these really unique use cases and things outside of finance as well. Like all you're doing is you're adding variables to what users can input to their end state. And then any solver can basically come in and say, okay, well, this is what the user wants. I know that there is XYZ path to get there. Let me find the best path. And then solvers basically compete to get the user the most of their goal that they want at the end. So users end up winning out because there's sort of this competition aspect to it. A lot of it revolves around Dutch auctions. But ultimately, the user gets a better UX. It's a faster UX because you're essentially working with assets that are already on chain rather than working with bridges. And so it's just a better overall experience for the user.
How much effort and work is it for you to do all of these technical integrations, right? And abstract all this away. And so effectively you're just token to token, don't know what's happening behind the scenes, don't know how it's being done, but it's just working. Like how big of a lift is this from a technical integration perspective?
Yeah, so it gets bigger as you go more into sort of the decentralized path of doing this stuff. So, and what I mean by that is it's pretty easy to set up sort of a centralized database, have all your intents, sort of use that as the mempool for your intents, and then just have, your solvers revolve around that, batch a transaction, batch a intent batch, or create a batch, and then have that competition run and go from there. What's really difficult is setting this up in sort of a decentralized manner where you have something like, say like an Essential or like an Anoma, where you have sort of this network where nodes are participating and they're actually like looking in a very decentralized manner for these intents, they're matching them, and then they're also handling settlement of those. And so we're starting off with the very low-hanging fruit of it, which is aggregator of aggregators. That's pretty easy. So we can basically take what exists in crypto today and we can just fill in the holes. And so if, say, dBridge handles things really great between, say, Solana and Ethereum, we can use that service. And then you have things like Hyperlane that handles a lot of stuff with Cosmos. You have IBC and Cosmos. Linking all that together is a little bit difficult because you have to create these standardized interfaces and you have to sort of keep up with all the inner working parts. But the payoff is huge because this level of complexity, a lot of folks don't want to tackle it, especially if they're not coming from a cross-chain sort of, if they're not thinking from a cross-chain perspective with like first principles. A lot of these folks, they end up either within like the EVM specifically, they end up on Solana, or they end up in one of the other ecosystems, and they don't have a lot of crossover. The complexity comes from the crossover, and that's where we're seeing the most value at as well, because no one's doing that.
Are you making those choices, dBridge versus Hyperlane in these particular situations, or are those somehow automated or AI, or is that you guys personally making those?
in the beginning, we're using them based on what will drive the best user experience. So like for me personally, I use DBridge for everything. And maybe this is an ad for them in the future if we ever compete. But for now,
we like those guys.
yeah, I love the DBridge product. And so, yeah, really big supporter of them. Across is also a really cool one. But obviously with, there's limited resources in every project. So we have to pick and choose which ones to integrate first. But the end state of the V1 is you're going to have Across, you're going to have DBridge, you're going to have every single intent-based bridge, regular bridge, all of the interoperability protocols you can think of. And then there's going to be sort of this competition aspect to it. So ultimately, if the user can say, or if the trader wants to come and say trade anything, they'll have the best rates possible throughout all of crypto. Like this is intended to be all of the rails of DeFi put into one API.
So effectively, you're keeping everyone on their toes in terms of infrastructure, right? Because it's always going to be, if Shogun grows, you're gonna have more and more people knocking at your door to try and play those key roles.
Exactly. Like as we grow, I think this will inspire competition. The cool thing is like we aren't trying to like replace any of these services. We're trying to add to them. And so we aren't necessarily like competitors with any of these aggregation services. If they have it, we'll use theirs. And we'll also compare our own rates. Like if there is something that we build and another competitor, say LiFi expands to like the movement ecosystem and anything like that, then we will compare their rates to ours, and whoever provides the best value to the users is who's going to win. That's the end state, or that's the end goal of Shogun. Is as long as we can have this direct relationship with the traders and have them flowing through us, we don't really care who routes it. We just want to make sure that traders' UX is top notch.
Great. You are working within the Cosmos ecosystem. Berachain and Celestia are specifically important. Can you talk a little bit about what made you land there, and also how those are a part of an integral part of Shogun?
Yeah, I think Berachain would have a big, serious problem with you calling them a Cosmos chain. That's kind of like, I mean, that's kind of the way it is, right? Like it is a Cosmos SDK chain, and we came from Cosmos, so it was a pretty easy decision for us to sort of have that as like kind of like the first stack. And so when you're looking at like Berachain, obviously we think they're going to be a winner in terms of Cosmos because of their way of branding, because of their ability to form community, and obviously like you see the noise that they're making, and it's really an altogether great team. And so that was like a no-brainer decision for us. Smokey also is like one of the most supportive founders out there. I wouldn't wear, a mask for most people, so I'll do it for Smokey for a little bit. And yeah, I mean that's kind of like the core idea is like Cosmos is built around this interoperability tech. Especially, I mean, IBC is like the most known bridge in the world. I think it's the most used bridge still on any given day. If you look at like the overall IBC volumes, even the ones that just go through osmosis, it's pretty top notch. Now, we're not a Cosmos project in the sense that we're only launching in Cosmos. We are first going to Base and Arbitrum in the EVM world, also going to Solana. But the idea is we will be sort of this interchain project, and that directly links us to Cosmos because they have this interchain vision as well. So there's a link there. In terms of branding, though, there's not too much of a crossover other than our partnership with Neutron.
Switching gears a little bit, existing pool-based AMMs and what they offer. What's the biggest takeaway and the biggest difference with Shogun versus those things?
So we have 3 core modules, and so we do use existing pools on chain. But prior to that, there's the peer-to-peer matching off chain, which is the cow, and then also chip vaults that are single-sided vaults on each respective chain that we support. And those are native assets. And so we have fillers or solvers that would utilize those liquidity sources first for using on-chain pools, which you find on dexes. So it's more efficient in that sense. We put it all together than just using on-chain pools.
The idea is it's like a hybrid method. So if you look at like most major assets, especially if we can get some sort of streaming of prices between like centralized exchanges directly to the solver, so that they can have sort of some proactive routing between centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges, the exchange rates for major assets are much more efficient on like a centralized exchange because of the liquidity that flows there. But for like long tail assets like meme coins, obviously the DEX is typically going to be the best path there because they're not going to be on the centralized exchange. And so the hybrid method we apply, where it's like using, centralized exchange liquidity and also using like just market makers and solvers for the major assets, that flows perfectly with, using DEX pools with like long tail assets like meme coins. And so having that hybrid approach, I think, will help our exchange rates compete with anyone in the industry.
You guys have talked about COW, coincidence of wants, to match things off chain. Can you share a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, so coincidence of wants is basically, it's kind of like an order book where you're looking for one side of the transaction who's buying an asset or looking to buy an asset, and one side that's looking to sell it. And the coincidence of wants is literally that. It's like you want something, I want it too. There's a coincidence there. We can find some sort of math formula where we're maximizing trader surplus for both of you. And so that's a key metric for us. Trader surplus is kind of how solvers also are incentivized to get traders the best rate, best rates possible. And so finding that sort of equilibrium between, say, like you want 5 ETH and I want, 1,000 Solana, finding where that mixture goes, where both sides are happy. That's what coincidence of wants is, and it's one of the features that we have. So you can have coincidence of wants matching with P2P trading. You can have those passive LPs as well that Rahul talked about, and then finally you have the filler tech as well. And if all else fails, you have the basic routing between DEXs and so forth as like sort of your last line of defense.
You have accomplished a lot in a short amount of time. When did you go through the Binance Accelerator timeframe? Was that a while ago or more recently?
That was December.
Okay.
So recently. December.
Recent. So you're moving, you're moving at rapid pace here. And I think you've got 2 phases coming up. How do we delineate those? Phase 1 versus phase 2?
This one is all about the aggregator of aggregators solution. So this is primarily trying to build the best trading platform with the tech that exists today. So all of the solutions being sort of a wrapper for that, being sort of like this Web3 as a service where you're linking all the rails between primitives, and then you can just use one single API to pretty much do anything on DeFi on all the chains that we support. And so that's the step 1. You're going to see that rolled out in a phased approach. We've got Arbitrum coming out first with Base, and then from there we're going to other EVMs to Solana. We have a big thing planned with Cosmos, of course, with Neutron specifically as the hub, and then we've got move-based folks that we're working on with Rishi and the guys at Movement Lab. So really excited to kind of get that launch out there, trading all of those things, having trading competitions, and incentivizing all of it through a couple key programs that we're going to release in the coming weeks as well. That should be fun. And then the second phase is where we get more into the generalized intent process. So now that we've built up this user base, we have all these folks that are trading, we know what the user data is, we understand the workflows and how good the solution is. Now let's take it up another level and let's actually have intent outposts on all of the chains that we're supporting so that we can handle some of the intent flows as well. So we're still going to use like things like the bridge for the chains that already exist, but getting intents on Movement Labs and getting intents on Cosmos, those are things that we think can add a lot of value to these. And then you combine that with everything that exists today, and you have a really good even trading platform that starts to feel like a centralized exchange that was built using DeFi rails.
What's your timeline? What's the time horizon look like for some of that phase 2 stuff that's a little more interesting as you roll these things out?
Yeah, absolutely. So phase 2 probably starts rolling out like August, September. We have a good amount of rollout to do for V1 right now. And then the V2 is currently in testnet, and we'll start rolling that out as soon as it starts getting audited and stuff like that.
Is the testnet open? Can people go touch and feel testnet V2?
Not yet. We're doing a very phased rollout. So the beta net or the beta release for the V1 is on 6.9. That will be a waitlist function, so you might have to wait a little bit while you sign up for that. But once we start rolling that out, you'll gain access to that. You'll be able to trade pretty much any asset between Arbitrum and Base, all through a Telegram bot, which isn't a feature that exists today. Like that's one of the cool things that we can do that some others can't. A lot of these Telegram bots are optimized for speed and performance, which they should be, especially for like a sniper bot. But for generalized trading, they don't have the ability to trade between any assets. Typically, like if you're on an EVM, you can trade from ETH to any asset. If you're on Solana, you can trade from SOL to any asset. With this, you'll be able to dump directly into a new coin, go anywhere you want to go, all from one easy to use UI.
Amazing. Let's talk about go-to-market, because some of your marketing tactics has been very fun too. What will make traders head to Shogun, and will it be like slowly, the same way you're releasing some of the beta and the testnet, or will it be all at once? Will it be a big inbound flood?
So one thing that we are implementing as like a loss leader initiative is a burn option program where we partner with select tokens, mainly meme coins in the beginning, because they're the ones that currently have the strongest community for whatever token that they represent. And essentially all that order flow that goes through our modules, any fee revenue that we generate will take and create a deflationary force on that token. And so we won't keep that revenue in the beginning. And this way you get you rally a bunch of degenerate community members across various, meme tokens. And that really does put price a bulk of on-chain traders at the moment. And so we think that's a strategy that we're employing. So we're aligned with all the key memes on Base and Arbitrum to start, and as well as like Solana ones when we get there. Wanted to start this conversation.
I think like anyone can identify there's like a huge asymmetry between what traders feel and what the biggest builders in the space feel. And like you don't have to go far to find that. Like look at what's going on with Ansem. And you might disagree with Ansem's tactics, right? Like maybe it is alias, but it's not the best use case of crypto. But it's one of the better use cases right now, according to the market. So there's that aspect, right? Like there's a lot of people who want to use crypto just to have fun, trade some meme coins. Like they're not taking it too seriously, right? But then you have sort of the builder aspect where there's a huge disconnect. And we're not saying who's right or wrong. We're just acknowledging the disconnect. And because we sort of lean towards more like what the traders think, just by being ourselves and letting that out through the content, I think people will understand that like this is an actual platform built for people that are similar to them, have similar interests. And I think that sort of, I mean, I hate to use the word vibes for this, but like that is a big aspect, right? Like people want to use things that they like. And if we can create Shogun as sort of not just this really cool product, but this place that like people can identify with, it's a cool hang, come to our Discord, come to our Telegram. That's a big aspect of it too.
Is Patrick Behrman representative of everyone that aligns with your vibes?
Patrick Behrman is one of the personalities, yes. He is the psychopathic trader who is on Banana Gun all day.
For those not listening, I will make sure I put the link in the show notes to Shogun came out with a very clever video about the life and challenges and status of a day in the life of a 27-year-old named Patrick Behrman who lives somewhere in New York, who struggles with his trading. Who came up with that idea? It was very clever. Congrats, guys, on that. Have you tell me about that video? How that happened? Did you do it internally? Did you use someone externally? I always love the go-to-market stuff.
Yeah, so that video was pretty organic. Like, we were just sitting there and we were just talking about like, what kind of shit that we're into. We were actually, it's funny because the only people that hated our announcement release was really like a bunch of Polygon people. And we shot that video while we were staying at the Polygon penthouse in New York. Like they had invited us. That video was pretty organic. And it was kind of funny because like a couple people DM'd and were like, oh, you're just this big VC project using like a PR firm building this marketing and stuff. But no, that was shot with my iPhone. We shot it. One of our devs is Patrick Behrman. And it's not my ass, so please stop sending me the ass and with all the memes that you've been making. Or keep sending them, you know what? And send them to people, send them around. Good tech. But yeah, it was a very organic process. It was shot on an iPhone. It probably took us maybe 15 minutes to do. The only budget we spent on it were the tidy whities that our dev had to put on, and that's it. That's all it is.
Well done. How are you measuring that from a KPI? I don't even know, what are the total views on it across all the platforms you launched it on?
You know what? It's not about the KPIs. It's about sending a message, and the message was sent. I think the best KPI is every single project that comes up to us that wants in it right now talks about that video first. So I think it did its job.
Yeah. And you're getting lots of ass pictures sent to you, so that's also helpful, Brandon.
It's bad. It's memes. A lot of people putting it on the SpongeBob with his tongue out, licking it meme. Some people are tattooing a 6 and a 9 on it. So I love it. Send more schizo posts, please.
Do you think that with everything going on within Bear Chain with you guys, do you think we see more of the bear vibes? Or do we see, I mean, Consensus had a number of bear heads walking around. Do you think we see more of those as months go on here?
You know, it can come off gimmicky, and I think it will get more gimmicky as we go. Like we're kind of like dealing with this weird transition where I think you are getting a little bit of a hint of like mass adoption, and that's where like this Iggy Azalea stuff is coming from. Like as more normie things come in, you're gonna see a lot more folks latching onto things like this, and as that happens, I think you're gonna see a lot more things like bear. Like I wouldn't be surprised if you see frog masks and you see like I don't know who's out there. Like I want to make fun of the dead chain, but I guess we're supposed to be professionals now, so I won't do it. Even though also you can see like Polygon wearing goon masks or something like that, right? Like Polygon's trying to get into this whole mimetic sort of meme of things, and you can kind of see how that's going. So I don't expect it to go well. I think Bear Chain's kind of like a unique aspect, and it's going to get pretty tired after that. Maybe Shogun runs it into the ground too. But yeah, that's kind of. I think it's going to be a lot more. Yeah.
I love it. All right. You guys have some big stuff coming up. What can people do to get involved, to support you, to make sure they know what's going on? Obviously, follow you on Twitter, Discord. What else?
I know we might seem like dicks on Discord, but we do want a lot of feedback. So this app that we're going to be releasing, you might have to wait a little bit to come off the wait list. But once you get into that wait list, please meme it, rip it apart, tell us everything that you hate about it. We want to know these things so that we can make it more efficient and more better for you. So yeah, please give us your feedback, get into the Discord, get into the Telegram, tell us what you love, tell us what you hate, and we just want to make, the best app that we can.
You could definitely follow our socials if you're not already. Hop in Discord, at ShogunFi, and Brandon's Twitter is 0x, Shogun, mine is Top G. Yeah, you can follow our personal accounts as well for news.
Please follow the Tom Brady of meme coins. The top G.
There you go. All right. The bear vibes are strong on this one. Thank you guys. Thank you both for joining the Pirate Pod. Really appreciate you taking the time, and best of luck in the coming weeks with all you have going on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.